So back in 2008, in the wake of the financial crisis that this country went through, the Congress tasked a commission to look impartially and in a bipartisan manner into the causes of that financial crisis. And that commission was called the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission. Well, in the last couple of days, reports have come out stating that two Republican slash conservative slash right-wing members of that commission were perhaps doing some illegal acts within that commission. Well, here's the headline at the Washington Post, quote, "Report accuses two GOP members on financial crisis panel of leaking information." And so Bill Thomas, the vice chair, the highest ranking Republican on that commission, and Peter Wallison were leaking information to outside parties on multiple occasions, end of quote. That's quoting from the report from the House Oversight Committee. And what's interesting is that in the case of Bill Thomas, he was leaking this information to a banking lobbyist. So that's pretty bad. And we'll see, because this is confidential information, if in fact they were violating any laws. There are going to be hearings, and the Congress will hopefully, I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully they'll get to the bottom of this. And in the case of Peter Wallison, not only was he leaking private information, but he seems like he was trying to coordinate. Remember, this was an impartial commission, trying to impartially understand and get into the roots of this crisis, the financial crisis. It looks like he was trying to maneuver his fellow Republican members into fashioning a final report that would have been in consonance, that would have been compatible with the goals of the House GOP to undermine the Democratic House, the Democratic Dodd-Frank bill, Democratic attempts to regulate the banking sector. And here's a direct quote, quote, "It's very important, I think, that what we say in our separate statements not undermine the ability of the new House GOP to modify or repeal Dodd-Frank," Wallison wrote to fellow Republican Commissioner Douglas Holtz-Eakin. And there's also going to be an investigation to see if he also broke laws, because of course he was paid a pretty penny, six-figure salary to be part of this commission. And if he in any way violated the letter or the spirit of why this commission was formed, maybe he's going to get into trouble. But who knows? This has just been put out there, and we'll see if anything comes out of this. And I will be following this story. Peter Wallison, so the guy who authored that memo, he, from his perch over at the American Enterprise Institute, he actually offered a reply to this report. And basically his reply was it had two things in it. First thing he's saying is that, oh well, the Democrats on the commission were corrupt, and they were biased, and they were political as well. And then he sort of delineates or various ways in which the Democratic members of the commission were undermining any sort of dissent from their political viewpoints, as he put it. But of course, in no way does he say that the Democrats were leaking information to confidential information to outside groups, private outside groups, which is the issue at hand, Mr. Wallison. And of course, there's no evidence that there were any memos showing that the Democrats are trying to coordinate and to try to subvert the goal of the commission by coordinating with the Democratic Party in the House. Those are the issues at hand, Mr. Wallison, and of course you don't address that. And what else? The other thing that he also says is, of course, he wasn't being driven politically, because his conclusions are in fact all true, all correct. Namely that that the origins of the crisis were because of the government, because of Fannie and Freddie, because of the Community Reinvestment Act and HUD and all these alphabet soup agencies of the federal government, which supposedly were giving loans to high-risk borrowers, and that when those borrowers defaulted, that's why we had the financial implosion and the housing bubble popped. Of course, his story is contradicted by scholarship, it's contradicted by the facts, and Wallison has yet to address that. He has yet to address all those objections. And of course, that's really his last recourse, as I can tell. Now that people are showing that his conclusions are all false, it just further adds to the suspicion that he was acting politically. And you know what? I'll stop right there. And in future videos, stay tuned. I'm actually going to go over some of that scholarship from Harvard University, from the University of North Carolina, various reports issued by scholars concerning the role of Fannie and Freddie in the Community Reinvestment Act. And very much, this was a private label mortgage-backed security driven crisis, a Wall Street driven crisis. They were the ones who dove headfirst and started to securitize and bundle all these high-risk mortgages, the subprime mortgages. And in fact, here's one statistic here. This is from the University of North Carolina. The red here represents private label securities, those, you know, originating from Wall Street. The blue, Fannie and Freddie. And as you see, this is from 2001 to 2008. As the decade went on and as the crisis got worse, it was Wall Street that was diving headfirst. Mortgages with low credit scores. So yeah, if his story was true, it would be the blue that would be going up, Fannie and Freddie. But of course, it was actually the red, Wall Street. Anyways, I'll stop right there. I will be addressing this in future videos, but let's stay tuned and see if anything comes out of these charges against these two right-wingers and Republicans. And I want to leave you with a final thought. Imagine if these were two Democrats that were doing this. The right wing and the conservative blogosphere, you know, their howls of protest would be resounding to the heavens about the corruption, the Chicago corruption of the Democrats, etc. Okay. Well, I'll stop right there. Take care, guys.